how are we doing? It is June now. Time flies, time really flies. But I thought it would be fun, just like always, to start of the month with my wrap up for May, the last month. Therefore, I don't know what this intro is. I don't know what I'm doing either. But I did manage to read a shitload in May. I don't know how I did that. So let's get into these stats. Starting with the amount of books read, which is 16, the most I've read all year, which amounted to a total of 5,715 pages, which is an average of 357.18 pages per book and an average of 184.35 pages per day. I finished 3 series this month and I have 1 DNF, which I will be talking about later in the video. Then for format, I have 3 books I own, 2 ebooks, 8 galleys from NetGalley, and 3 library books. And star rating were all over the place. You have 2 1 stars, 2 2 stars, 4 3 stars, 6 4 stars, and 2 5 stars, which is an average rating of a 3.25. And for age range, we have 1 middle grade, 9 young adult novels, and 6 adult novels. This is the first time in a very long time that YA has been the highest. Then for genre, we have 11 contemporary books, 1 mystery thriller, 1 historical fiction, 1 fantasy, 1 comic, and 1 dystopian. So yeah, let's just delve into the books I read this month, starting off with It's Not Summer Without You by Jenna Voris, which I consider 5 stars too. I'm not the biggest fan of The Summer I Turned Pretty, but I read that last month. And there was just something very addicting about it, so of course I had to start over this month by reading book 2, and it was just as addicting and just as bad. Like, I still don't like this, but something about it is just so entertaining and so quick to read for me, so that's why this is a 3 star, because objectively I don't really have anything positive to say about it. Especially in this book, I feel like every character was just fighting to be the most unlikable character I've ever read about, which isn't fun, but for some reason it is. Like, I had so much fun while reading this book. Then next I read Say a Little Prayer by Jenna Voris, which I give 5 stars to as a galley got from NetGalley. I have to say this was a cover request technically because I didn't buy it, because I don't know, just something about this cover really appealed to me, and I can say that the book definitely didn't disappoint. I didn't absolutely love it, but I do feel like for YA contemporary nowadays, it is a bit difficult for me to give 5 stars to it just because I've read so much of the genre. But I would highly recommend this one. I did really enjoy this. I really just love our main character, and then the focus on community in this book is also really great, and I actually really love the nuance around the discussions around religion, especially considering this is targeted towards a YA audience. I really like that element of it. I also really like the Castle Side character, and overall I think this book did a great job at managing to be fun while also properly discussing some of its more difficult topics, in my opinion. The next I read It's a Love Story by Annabel Monaghan, which I gave 5 stars to as a galley from NetGalley. I've previously enjoyed another Annabel Monaghan, so I was very excited for her new release, and again, did not disappoint. This was such a fun romance book. I just really loved our main couple. I really loved her dynamic. Their banter, their back and forth was just to die for. On top of that, we also spent a lot of time with our love interest family, and they also hilarious. Absolutely loved spending time with them, and overall I think it's just a very good summary, like feel good type book. The only kind of issue I did have with this book is that the main plot felt kind of forgotten about at times, and then randomly like squeezed in like, oh shit, yeah, we were supposed to do this thing. So I wanted a little bit more from that, but for the rest, definitely really enjoyed it. Then next I read Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton, which I gave 5 stars to. If you were here last month, you know that the first book in the zoology was my biggest surprise of like ever. Like, I am not a dark romance girly, but for some reason I absolutely really enjoyed that book, and it ended on a massive cliffhanger, so of course I had to get to the second book this month, and I yet again really liked it. I do have to say I'm still not a dark romance girly, because the romance is easily my least favorite part of this book, because it just, I don't know, the way it's written just is very cringy and I don't like it, even taking aside the things that make it dark, let's say, because it is a stalker romance. Like, take away all of that stalker elements and it's still like very cringy and like gross, and I don't really like it. But besides that, this is like a good horror book, I would say. Like, it is extremely dark, this book. The first one is as well, but this one even more so. I feel like it is just such a well-written book besides the romance, and I really love the progression our main character makes, like Adeline, how the progression she makes. I think the balance between like the really dark shit and then like a little bit more of a lighter thing. It's still not light, but we do get out of the like action, let's say, a little bit with the love interest POV. That balance is done really well, and then the second half has a great finale to it as well. Then next I read The Lion Game by Ruth Ware, which I give 2 to 5 stars to. This is just one massive nothing burger. Like, nothing happened in this book. Nothing. And I don't mind a mystery book that has a slow build, because honestly, if that ending lands, it is so good, but it has like such a slow build. But this just delivered nothing. The plot twists were extremely predictable, and like the different reveals, I don't know, I didn't hate it. I did still was intrigued enough to keep reading throughout the entire book, even if nothing was happening. I do kind of like the flashbacks that were set in the past. Like, I love a book set in a boarding school. I do, and that's what the flashbacks were. So I really enjoyed those parts as well, but they were very minor parts of the book, which I didn't hate it, so therefore it isn't a 1 star. Then next I read Come As You Are by Dahlia Adler, which I give 2 to 5 stars to, and is a guy I got from NetGalley. This is another YA book. It's a book set in boarding school, and I did like it. I thought it was fine. I like the boarding school setting. Like I said, that's the thing I like in books, and it definitely is really well done in this one. I like the cast of characters. I thought they were a lot of fun. The romance was cute, but honestly felt more platonic than romantic to me, and I kind of was missing a little bit of the chemistry there. And then on top of that, I feel like the main theme of this book is self-improvement and whatever that looks like, but our characters felt like, I felt like there was no real development for our characters. I felt like they were the exact same going into this book as going out of this book. Then next I read We'll Always Have Summer by Jenny Holm, which I gave 1 star to, which is such a disappointment. And like, it's not, shouldn't be that much of a surprise, because like I said, I didn't love book 1 and 2. I enjoyed them, but like I can't recognize everything that's bad about it. It was just bad. And then on top of that, it also has the crime of just being boring as fuck. Then next I also have All Superheroes Need PR by Elizabeth Stevens, which was a DNF, and this was a galley from NetGalley. This isn't necessarily a bad book. I do think the writing was a bit chaotic and a bit difficult to follow for me at times, but overall that's not why I DNF'd it. I feel like that's a writing style I could have gotten used to, but ultimately it's just really not my thing. And from the cover and the synopsis, I was expecting a completely different vibe from what this ended up being. Then next I read You Started by Jackie Khalilieh, which I gave 4 to 5 stars to, and is a galley I got from NetGalley. Really like this one again. It just fell very short of a 5 star again, which I just told you, it's very difficult for a YA contemporary to get 5 stars for me, so the fact that this fell short just barely says something. I really liked it. I really liked the main character. I liked the discussions around family and heritage, which are like its 2 biggest themes. I thought those were extremely well done, and even made me cry at a certain point in this book, because it just, I don't know, it got to the nitty-gritty. And then I liked the main character a lot, and even though I liked the moments I thought they were cute, I feel like the pacing of it is very off. Like in the beginning, I feel like it's very quick, and then we have, I can't even call it a 3rd act breakup, because it doesn't happen in the 3rd act, it happens way too soon, and therefore that feels very drawn out and long. It's like, why are we even attempting to get them back together? Because like, they've been apart longer than they've been together. Like, what are we doing? So I feel like that could have been a bit better paced, the romance. And then next we have Get Real Chloe Torres by Crystal Maldonado, which I give 2 to 5 stars to, and a guy from NetGalley. This is a very short YA contemporary book, which is also extremely fast paced, and ultimately I think that's this book's biggest downfall, because I think it tries to do too much within the very little time it has, and therefore it ends up being kind of forgettable. Like, nothing really has much depth to it. I really did like our characters. I like the road trip element to it, the different pit stops they take along the way create for some very cute sentimental moments, but I kind of wish there was more of their friendship, of their development, of like being friends in the past, having this falling out, and now going on this road trip together. I would have loved and I've seen more kind of like of them reckoning with what drove them apart, basically. Then next I read The Disco Witches from Fire Island by Blaire Fell, which I give 2 to 5 stars to, and there's a guy from NetGalley. This one sounded like so much fun, and it wasn't. I mean, not just so much fun, like just something very up my alley. That's something else. Very up my alley, and it really wasn't. And honestly, I hate the fact that it wasn't, because the things that I thought were going to be up my alley were present in this book, and they were really well done, but they didn't even make up like 10% of the book, and the rest of it is just constant waffling about nothing. Like, when we actually focus on The Disco Witches, I think it's so interesting when we focus on the loss and characters that came with the HIV crisis. I think that's all very interesting, very well done, but it's like such a small part of this book. Then next I read Learning to Fall by Peach Morris, which I give 1 5 stars to, and is a guy I got from NetGalley. Typically a 1 star is a book that I hated, you know, like we'll always have summer. I didn't hate this because there was nothing to it. Like, I hate to say that this is badly written because God knows I can't write either. Like, I couldn't write a book to save my soul. But this was just, it felt like a bare bones book. Like, you know, a like detailed synopsis of a book where you, like a first draft even, where you just like lay out the main things you want to happen in your book, and then, you know, once you've gotten it out of your system, you go back in and then, you know, add the meat to the story. You add the development of the characters, the development of the relationship, like different scenes that kind of pad it out. We forgot about that step in this book. Like, it's just the most bare bones book you could ever read, but that makes for such a disjointed reading experience. Then next I read Time Loops and Meet Cutes by Jackie Khalilieh, which I gave 45 stars to as a guy from NetGalley. I was a bit nervous about this one because, you know, a time loop romance is something difficult to pull off, but I was curious about it. I do like time loop stories, but having only one of the characters within a romance in the time loop, I had a feeling things could get iffy. Never got iffy, which I really enjoy. I kind of really like the way the author pulled off the romance and within this constraints. I thought it was really well done. I also really loved our main character and kind of her character progression throughout this book of having a constant time loop, so therefore not really having any consequences to your actions, getting to try things out that you otherwise never would have. And like, even if it's not necessarily a thing that's gonna stick and something she's gonna change her life forever when she gets out the time loop, something she tried out and now knows for sure, like, nah, that's not my thing. I really liked seeing that progression. On top of that, there is another woman in a time loop with her, and their friendship is everything. Like, I feel like definitely it is just a really well written friendship, but it also helped cause this book to feel a little bit less repetitive because we had a person that also was aware of the things going on, and I like the way everything got resolved as well. I feel like oftentimes time loop stories try to explain too much for the time loop. Like, I don't need to know everything about this. Like, I'm not a scientist. I don't care how this actually works. But I think this book perfectly balances answering things while also leaving things open, like, oh yeah, we don't fully know how this works, which I really enjoy. The only complaint I really had about this book is that I do think the love interest and the romance in general is a little tad bit underdeveloped. I wanted a little bit more, especially from the love interest, because that's why the romance overall also kind of ended up feeling underdeveloped for me, is because of love interest is. And now let's actually get in the books I have physically with me. Starting with Foul Heart Huntsman by Chloe Gong, which I give 45 stars to. This is the finale to the Secret Shanghai world, but also to the Foul Lady Fortune duology. And this one is so close to a 5-star, it pains me that it wasn't. This was just such a good conclusion to the story. It was very action-packed. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, had my heart racing. I really loved the direction I ended up taking the story, and it definitely went in some places that I wasn't expecting and had me like absolutely just like surprised at moments. On top of that, I think Chloe Gong is also really good at writing romances in her books, and every single couple in this book is just the absolute cutest. They're so cutie pies and I love them so much. And even when it comes to like interpersonal character conflicts, I also thought that was really interesting and very well executed in this book. But my only complaint with this is that the final battle felt so quick. Like, it was over so easily, and it's like, this is a thing we've been building towards. The thing, really, this is just how we're gonna end things. That felt a little bit Then we have the biggest surprise of this month, and that is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark by Jessa Hastings, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. Yes, I don't believe it either, but bitch, I cried like a baby during this book. Like, oh my god, this was such a good book. The main topic of this book is grief, so do be aware we are going into it, but it was so gorgeously done. Like, the way it was executed is just perfect, and I love how throughout the entire book it's such a constant thing, even if it becomes a less pressing thing, if that makes sense. I also really love the development of Magnolia in this book. Like, the thing that's been pissing me off most of the series is Magnolia, so her character growth throughout this book is just so beautiful to see, and and not just because of her grief, but she does tackle a lot of her demons in this book, and the way it's done is so well done, and I really love how it makes her grow as a character and grounds her as a character without necessarily losing the aspects that make her her. Also, because there was just so much going on in this book, the romantic drama is way less. There are still some moments, of course, but it's way less than in previous books, which also makes the relationship less exhausting than I have found before. And the way it ended was just the perfect ending to Magnolia and BJ's story. The next I read Vrienden voor altijd by Dahlia Adler and Vrienden, which I give 2 out of 5 stars to. I needed a palate cleanser after Magnolia Parks. My heart felt heavy. So I read this. It's the 5th installment in the Camille comic series, which is like for young, it is for like a middle grade audience, and it's way younger than I actually am. But because I love Camille is a Flemish singer, I do read these because I do think they're fun and I love the art style in it. But they're all very hit or miss for me. This one was fine. I had a fun enough time reading it. I had a smile on my face while reading it as well. But I do think the overall storyline in this is just extremely unrealistic, to the point where my suspension of disbelief is just too far gone for this to probably work for me. And then last but definitely not least, this is my favorite book I read this month, and that's Summer's on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, which I gave 5 stars. Obviously, it's my favorite book of the month. How to talk about this book? I don't know. Because, oh my god. I thought Mockingjay absolutely mentally destroyed me. This was like, hold my beer. And who didn't destroy me. But even before that, I absolutely adored this book. I have always really liked Haymitch as a character, and I've always been very interested in reading more about his story. I did get into the Hunger Games after this was already announced, so I already knew I was getting Haymitch's story, so I was very excited for that. And so I was very excited to get to this book, and it did not disappoint. Like, I adore Haymitch as a character so much, even more so after reading this book. I loved kind of seeing more depth to his character, because obviously previously we only got Katniss' perspective on him, and Katniss isn't the most perceptive person. So being in his head through this book has just been such a delight until the end. But a delight as in I loved getting to know him more. And then the story of this book is also absolutely incredible. Like, the rebellion is front and center in this book, which is such a switch up. I really like that element to it. On top of that, this also really focuses on propaganda a lot, and I think propaganda is a very interesting topic, and I really like the way Suzanne Collins dealt with it in this book. And then the games were so interesting, man. Especially because we already know things about these games from Catching Fire, where these games have been very quickly recapped, and the way the Capitol showed them to the people. And it's not necessarily, because again this book is about propaganda, it's not necessarily the way things actually went down. It was very interesting seeing that. And then the ending, like I said, soul destroying. Oh my god, the only thing I'd seen about this book before reading it is everybody sobbing. I was like, it can't be that bad. Surely. Mockingjay prepped me for this. No, it didn't. When I tell you my heart is broken still in a million pieces, I mean it, because oh my god, I don't think I will ever functionally recover from this. I got interrupted, so I didn't get a chance to do my outro, so I apologize for things looking different. But that was the entirety of my wrap up from May. All the 16 books and 1 D11 that I read this month. Like I said, I don't know how I did it either. But let me know in the comments what you thought of any of these books, if you read them, as well as some of your favorite books that you read in the month of May. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Good. Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated?